picture this. You've just finished a great meal at a restaurant when the waiter brings over the cheque for you to sign. As you grasp the pen, however, your hand begins to shake. Your writing is indecipherable and looks more like a squiggle than a collection of letters. Or your writing is so tiny and crowded that it's impossible to make out where one letter ends and another begins. While you might be tempted to brush this off, both of these are signs that you might be developing dementia, Alzheimer's, or even Parkinson's disease. But before we get into that, let me explain why being aware of subtle signs of cognitive decline is so important. To do that, I want you to imagine waking up one day realising you're developing dementia. Now, imagine something worse. Realising that you'd been ignoring the subtle signs of brain deterioration for years. If only you had recognised these signs sooner, you might have been able to treat it. But now, it feels too late. I'm guessing you're watching this video because you want to avoid this nightmare scenario. And I'm going to help you do this by sharing the subtle sign that your brain needs help. Before we dive in, I want you to pause for a minute and think about whether there's someone in your life that could also be helped by this video. Then go ahead and share it with them, because it could change their life. I'm not a doctor, and if you have a medical emergency, please contact one right away. Okay, let's get back to our handwriting example and how this can indicate the development of brain diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Alzheimer's can cause symptoms like loss of muscle control, forgetfulness, and confusion. Independently, or coupled together, these signs can cause a change in handwriting. A person with Alzheimer's may, for instance, find their hand shaking when they write because of loss of fine motor control. Or they might forget what they're supposed to do when they're presented with a cheque to sign. Often this results in their handwriting appearing more like a series of squiggly lines than legible words. A change in writing can also be caused by Parkinson's, which results in that tiny, cramped writing that I mentioned earlier. This is what's known as micrographia, and according to the Parkinson's Foundation, is an early warning sign of this disease. Finally, a change in handwriting could also indicate another problem with your brain, such as an essential tremor, which is a neurological disorder that causes shaking in body parts like your hands, or ataxia, which is caused by damage to the area of the brain that controls muscle coordination. Either way, your handwriting changing is a clear warning that something is going on with your brain and that you should get it checked out. Number 2, you can't smell as well as you used to. Did you know that a rapid loss of smell is one of the early warning signs of dementia and Alzheimer's? According to research conducted by scientists at the University of Chicago, changes in how well you smell may be linked to cognitive impairment. This study looked at 515 older adults from the Rush University's Memory and Aging Project, MAP, and tracked their ability to smell compared with their cognitive functioning. What they found was that a rapid decline in smell predicted the development of Alzheimer's disease. In other words, patients began losing their sense of smell before developing signs of cognitive decline. Another study carried out at the University of Florida found that a so-called peanut butter test could indicate Alzheimer's. In this, researchers compared how close a container of peanut butter could get to a group of Alzheimer's and non-Alzheimer's patients before they could smell it. Listen to physician and public health expert Dr. Greger break the results of this study down.
In normal elderly controls, they smelled the peanut butter as soon as it came within an average of 18 centimeters, which is about 7 inches from either nostril. And in the right nostril of Alzheimer's patients, it's about the same, 7 inches, no difference. But in their left nostril, only 2 inches. The peanut butter had to get all the way up to 2 inches before they could detect it through their left nostril. And this happened every single time.
While this sounds crazy, these findings are a compelling reason to get a sudden change in your sense of smell checked out by your doctor. Keep in mind, though, that Alzheimer's isn't the only cause for a sudden loss of smell. Other illnesses, like COVID, can cause a rapid loss of your olfactory abilities. Number 3. You have trouble buttoning your clothes. Have you stopped buying clothes with buttons because it takes too long to button them? While a loss in dexterity can be easy to dismiss as you get older, I'd like to urge you not to dismiss it. In fact, trouble with your fine motor skills can be a sign of cognitive decline. One study, for instance, published in the journal Archives of Gerontology and Geriatrics, found that patients with moderate to severe dementia had more difficulty with fine motor skills than those with mild dementia. Whether it's struggling to button up your shirt, tie your shoelaces, or even unlock a door, if you're experiencing trouble with your fine motor skills, it's a clear sign that there might be something going on with your brain, something that needs to be investigated. Number 4, your personality has changed. Most people think of dementia as being a disease that only affects older people, but frontotemporal dementia typically occurs in younger people, like those between the ages of 40 and 65. According to the Mayo Clinic, it's responsible for anywhere from 10 to 20% of all dementia cases. Frontotemporal dementia, or FTD for short, is exactly what it sounds like. It's dementia that occurs in the frontal and temporal lobes of your brain. The frontal lobe of your brain is responsible for things like expressive language, memory and judgment, and your brain's temporal lobe helps you manage emotions and understand language, among other tasks. When dementia affects these lobes, as it does in FTD, it can cause dramatic personality changes. Someone with FTD might behave inappropriately in social conditions, seem emotionally distant, and have trouble with impulse control. Alzheimer's disease can also cause personality changes, like easily becoming angry, being paranoid, or, on the flip side, being disinterested in things. However, symptoms of Alzheimer's typically appear in later life, around 65 and older. The key here is, take changes in personality seriously, no matter how old you are. Number 5, you have trouble sleeping. Did you know that, according to the Mayo Clinic, up to 25% of people with mild to moderate dementia and 50% of those with severe dementia have trouble sleeping? The reason for this is largely due to the fact that brain changes due to dementia can also impact your circadian rhythm. However, even if you don't currently have dementia, if you have a sleep disorder, you might be more likely to develop it. Insomnia, for instance, has been associated with an increased risk of developing Alzheimer's. One study even found that those suffering from insomnia had a 33% higher risk of developing dementia and a 51% increased risk of developing Alzheimer's. The reason for this is thought to be that during sleep, your body clears out a protein called beta-amyloid. In Alzheimer's patients, these manifest as beta-amyloid plaque buildups. Listen to sleep scientist Matt Walker talk about how this relates to those with sleep disorders.
In fact, if you take a healthy human being and you deprive them of sleep for just one night, and the next day we see an immediate increase in that beta amyloid, both circulating in their bloodstream, circulating in what we call the cerebrospinal fluid, and most recently, after just one night of sleep, using special brain imaging technology, scientists have found that there is an immediate increase in beta amyloid directly in the brain itself.
Consider this a wake-up call to start developing good sleep hygiene now. Your brain will thank you. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing as we continue to make content to help you live longer, healthier, happier lives.